Okay, this is the third mini lecture for section 7.3 and 4. Now let's talk about percents. If r is any non-negative real number, then r percent, written r percent, the percent symbol, is the ratio r over 100. Okay, and it's convenient to use this notation because we're already kind of used to thinking about things in terms of hundreds and powers of 10. Like money, for instance, works that way. And so just for the average person, it's a little bit easier to understand percents than it is to understand fractions. So for example, I could take, say 75%. Well, that's the ratio 75 over 100, which I could write as 3/4. Or I could use the division by powers of 10 rule to write that as 0.75. Okay, those are all different ways of writing the same amount. Or if I start with a decimal, let's say 0.64. Well, I could write that as a fraction as 64 over 100. If I want, I could simplify that. Let's see, that would be 16 over 25. And then I could also write it as a percent, 64%. Or if I want to start with a fraction, let's say 2/3. Let's say 4/3, just so we get something greater than 1. So 4/3. Well, I could write this as a decimal, okay, using the methods we learned in the last slides, the last section, 7.1. So as a decimal, this would be 1.333 ... Or I could write that 1.3 with a bar over it. Okay, and then as a percent, this would be, I just moved the decimal point 2 places. 133.3 bar percent, or about 133%. Okay, and we handle problems involving percents the same way we do any other problem involving ratios and proportions. Okay, so there's really not anything new here. The only thing that's really new is the notation. So for example, if a customer wants to leave a 15% tip at a restaurant and the bill is $28.30, how much money should they pay in all? So the ratio of the tip to the bill needs to be 15%. So I can say, okay, X is to $28.30 as 15 is up to 100. Or I could also just write 0.15. Again, and I solve this by cross multiplying. So I get that X would be 28.30 times 0.15. So here I use my calculator. Okay, and so I have to round a little bit. I'll round up so we get 425. And then we want to know how much money should we pay in all. So I just add that to 28.30. So it'd be 32.55. A faster way to do it would have been to just multiply 2830 by 1.15. And then that would include the the price that you have to pay plus the tip. So you could do this then in one step. One way that I was taught to do it, and that I still kind of do out of habit, even though I have a calculator on my phone, is to figure out 10% of the bill and then add on half of that. So just to make it simpler, suppose that we're exactly $28. Okay, 10% of that is $2.80. And then half of $2.80 is $1.40. If I add those together, I get $4.20. So the tip for a $28 bill would be $4.20. And that's easy to do in your head because it's easy to do 10%. You just move the decimal point. And then you just divide that in two and add it. Okay, so here's another type of example. If Lisa scored 23 out of 30 points on an exam, what is her percent grade? Well, let's see. 23 out of 30 equals x out of 100. That's x percent. Cross multiply. And I end up with 100. Rather, x equals 100 times 23 over 30. So let's work that out. 23 divided by 30 times 100. And we get 76.6 with the bar over it. So, rounding, we'll say that her percent grade is about 77%. So you just compute the quotient, multiply by 100. Okay, so here is a problem that always trips everyone up. And actually, we did this as a class a number of years ago when I first started teaching this course. And I got it right the first time I did it. But all the students got it wrong. And they were so very confident that they were right, that I was wrong, that eventually they got me to agree with them. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And then this semester ended, and it was afterwards, and I was thinking about it, and then I realized that no, I was right, and I felt terrible about that. But I was right in the first place. This is one you should think about, and maybe we'll talk about it in class. I don't know if I want to work it out, but let me at least discuss it. So at the start of a shift, a cash register has $100 in it. At the end of the shift, it has $800. If the state charges a 5% sales tax on each sale, how much of the money in the cash register is sales tax? Well, so first of all, of course, what we're really looking at is $700. So the cash register took in $700. So we took in $700. Okay, so we want to know how much of this is sales tax. Here's a hint. It's not 5% of 700. I know it seems like it should be, probably. That's what I mistakenly thought that one time. It's not 5% of 700. Think about it. This 700 includes the sales amount. That's what you're charging for the items you're selling, plus the tax on those items. Now, to figure out the tax on the items, you multiply the price of the items by 5%, and then you add that on. So after you've done that, this 700, that's that 700. This 700 is the original price plus 5% of the original price. Okay, so the sales tax is not 5% of 700. It's 5% of the sale amount. So if you say that the sale amount, I'll just go through it. The sale amount, let's say it's X. Then that means that the 700 is going to be X. That's the amount that, that's our profit. That's what we get. Not our profits, just the amount of money we're taking in. Plus 5% of that. So plus X times 0.05. So if I put that together, that's 1.05 times X. So X then would be 700 divided by 1.05. And we get, I'm going to round since we're working with money, 666.67. And so this is the sale amount. This is the money that we keep. Then the sales tax is what's left over. Or, same thing, it's 5% of that. What is 5% of that? Or you could just take the difference. So either way, the sales tax is going to be what makes up the difference. We get 33.33. So if you had done 5% of 700, I think you'd get $35. That's a little bit too much because it should be 5% of this. Not 5% of 700. Okay, so this is a good one to think about. Always trips people up. Okay, so here's the homework. It's 2 sections. Most of them are pretty straightforward. Some of the problems, if they ask you to, if they involve proportional reasoning of some kind, like the problem we did with the diorama, set it up as a proportion before you solve it, because I'll be asking you to do that on the exam. Okay, so work on these and we'll discuss them in class.